You think you walk into an interrogation room on equal footing. Two people, one conversation, a fair exchange of questions and answers. You are wrong. Before you sit down, before you say a single word, before you even know you're a suspect, they have already built a file on you. Your criminal history, your phone records, your text messages, the surveillance footage from your neighbor's doorbell camera, the posts you deleted from social media 3 months ago, the affair you thought no one knew about. The interrogation does not begin when you enter the room. It begins days, sometimes weeks before you arrive. And by the time you sit in that chair under those fluorescent lights, the detective across from you already knows more about your life than your closest friends. This is the invisible advantage, and it is the single most important factor in whether you confess. Welcome to the interrogation files, where power, psychology, and control are decoded, and you learn what they do not want you to know. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly what interrogators know before you speak. I will show you, first, the massive surveillance infrastructure that feeds them information. Second, the psychological profiling that happens before you enter the room. And third, the science behind how they weaponize this knowledge against you. By the end, you will understand why the cards are stacked against you from the moment you become a person of interest. Here is what most people do not understand. Modern law enforcement has access to a digital surveillance apparatus that would have been unimaginable 30 years ago. The FBI's National Crime Information Center processes nearly 18 million database queries every single day. That is not a typo. 18 million. Every day. The system contains over 12 million active records across 21 different files. Criminal histories, outstanding warrants, sex offender registries, protection orders, immigration violations, even a known or suspected terrorist file. And that is just the federal level. Before a detective sits down with you, they have already run your name through the system. They know every arrest, every conviction, every time you have had contact with law enforcement anywhere in the country. They know if you have a restraining order against you. They know if you have been flagged as a person of interest in any other investigation. But here is where it gets more invasive. Law enforcement now has access to tools that can pull data from over 500 social media platforms simultaneously. One system called Shadow Dragon's Horizon Investigate does not just look at your public posts. It searches archived datasets, web communities, and forums you forgot existed. It extracts GPS coordinates embedded in your photos. It maps your relationship networks through friend lists and followers. It tracks your movements through geotagged posts. That photo you took at a restaurant last Tuesday? They know you were there. That angry comment you left on a news article 5 years ago? They have it. That burner account you thought was anonymous? It is linked to your real identity through metadata you did not even know existed. And then there's your phone. Mobile device forensic tools are now used by more than 2,000 law enforcement agencies across all 50 states. Some departments have reported 568% increases in cell phone examinations between 2015 and 2018. Modern 5G networks enable cell precision as small as 2,000 feet. Timing advanced measurements can pinpoint your device location to approximately 10 meters from cell towers. Think about what this means. They know where you were, when you were there, who you called, who called you, how long you talked, which cell towers your phone pinged as you moved through the city. Before you say a word, they have already mapped your movements for weeks. This is the first layer of the invisible advantage, pure information collection. But the second layer is where it gets psychological. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, established in 1972 and later pioneered by agents John Douglas and Robert Ressler, provides what they call indirect personality assessment of suspects before interrogation even begins. Here's how it works. The BAU analyzes the criminal act itself, the crime scene, the victim profile, preliminary police reports, and autopsy protocols. From this, they develop what they call critical offender characteristics: your likely age range, your employment status, your relationship history, your psychological vulnerabilities. By the time you sit down, they have already built a profile of who you are and what makes you tick. The READ technique, used by over 500,000 trained law enforcement professionals since 1974, formalizes this pre-interrogation research into what they call factual analysis. Before the first question is asked, interrogators have already reviewed your biosocial status, your opportunity to commit the crime, your access to the crime scene, your behavior before and after the incident, and your potential motive. They have also assessed you for psychological vulnerabilities. Forensic psychologist Gisli Gudjonsson identified 17 vulnerability factors that interrogators look for: cognitive impairments, mental health disorders, high suggestibility, compliance personality traits. A Dutch study of police suspects found that approximately 60% rated positive on mental health screening, with levels of depression, anxiety, and interrogative suggestibility significantly higher than the general population. Interrogators know this, and they use it. But perhaps the most important pre-interrogation technique is establishing what is called a behavioral baseline. FBI guidelines recommend observing your voice tone, posture, gestures, eye contact patterns, and emotional expressions during non-threatening background questions. Over 215 stress-related behaviors are cataloged as potential deviations indicating deception. When they ask you where you work, what kind of car you drive, how long you have lived at your current address, they are not making small talk. They are calibrating, measuring your normal, so they can detect when you deviate from it. This brings us to the third and most dangerous layer, the science of weaponizing information asymmetry. There is a technique called the strategic use of evidence, developed by researchers at Gothenburg University in Sweden. It has been validated in over 20 peer-reviewed studies, and it represents the scientific weaponization of what interrogators already know. Here is the core principle. The technique depends not on what investigators actually know, but on what you believe they know. SUE-trained interviewers deliberately withhold evidence during the early phases of an interview. They ask questions they already know the answers to. They let you talk, let you build your story, let you commit to a version of events. Then, at tactically chosen moments, they reveal evidence that contradicts what you just said. The results are devastating. Untrained interviewers achieve 56% deception detection accuracy. SUE-trained interviewers achieve 85.4%. That difference is comparable to the height differential between average men and women. It is that significant. A related technique, called the Scharf technique, was developed by a World War II German interrogator named Hans Joachim Scharf. It is now studied by the FBI's High-Value Detainee Interrogation Group. The technique creates what researchers call an illusion of knowing it all. Here's the psychology. When an interrogator appears to already know everything, you stop guarding information. You think, what is the point of hiding it if they already know? Research demonstrates that subjects who experienced the Scharf technique believed they revealed an average of 5.4 pieces of information. In reality, they revealed 7.93 pieces, nearly 50% more than they realized. You are leaking information you do not even know you're giving away. Now, let me show you exactly how this works in practice. August 14, 2018, Frederick, Colorado. Chris Watts arrives for a polygraph examination. He thinks he's going to clear his name. He thinks the police need information from him. He has no idea what they already know. Overnight, FBI agent Graham Coder and CBI agent Tammy Lee had assembled a devastating case file. His neighbor Nathaniel Trinastic's security camera had captured Watts at 5:18 a.m., backing his truck into the garage, making 3 trips loading something heavy. Police had already watched this footage with Watts present, observing his reaction. They knew about his affair with co-worker Nicole Kessinger. Kessinger herself had contacted police and told them everything. They had discovered a secret calculator app on his phone used to hide messages and photos from his mistress. They had daycare records showing Watts' call to unenroll his daughters the morning of their disappearance. They knew the beds were not made. The master sheets were stripped. His wife's purse and phone were left behind. Watts thought he was walking into a conversation. He was walking into an ambush. During the interview, Agent Coder caught Watts referring to his wife and daughters in past tense. Celeste loved a certain pair of shoes. She was a girly girl, language that revealed knowledge of their deaths. When confronted about nervous movements toward his neck, Coder stepped out and told colleagues he may have strangled her. The tactical deployment of known information proved decisive. Investigators let Watts lie about the affair, then revealed they already knew. Agent Lee offered a psychological theme, suggesting maybe his wife hurt the kids, and Chris freaked out. The breakthrough came when his father was allowed in the room. Watts whispered the confession. She hurt them, and I freaked out and I hurt her. He broke in under 24 hours, not because of intimidation, not because of threats, because they knew more than he ever imagined. But here is the dark side of this power. The Innocence Project has documented over 375 DNA exonerations since 1989. 29% involved false confessions. For homicide cases specifically, false confession is the most common contributing factor to wrongful conviction. Here is the terrifying statistic. 23 of 104 false confession exonerees had exculpatory DNA evidence available at trial. The DNA proved they were innocent. They were still convicted. Because a confession is that powerful. Research shows that accusatorial interrogations using evidence ploys produce 4.47 times more false confessions than information gathering approaches. The same techniques that broke Chris Watts have also broken innocent people. A man named Gary Gauger was told police had rock-solid evidence against him. They suggested a blackout scenario where he might have committed the crime without memory. They asked him to imagine how it might have happened. His speculation became his confession. He was innocent. Juveniles under 15 comprised 33% of proven false confessors, despite representing a fraction of suspects. 84% of false confessions occurred after 6 or more hours of interrogation. The average false confession interrogation lasted over 16 hours. Once obtained, confessions proved nearly impossible to overcome. 81% of proven false confessors who went to trial were convicted. The information asymmetry that helps catch guilty people also destroys innocent ones. So what can you do with this knowledge? First, understand that talking to police without an attorney represents a profound information disadvantage. You do not know what they know, you cannot know what they know, and everything you say will be evaluated against information you have never seen. Law professor James Duane's advice has become expert consensus. Do not talk to the police, not because you're guilty, because you cannot win a game when you do not know the rules, the cards, or the stakes. Second, know that Miranda warnings are required only during custodial interrogation. Those friendly conversations before you are arrested. Everything you say is fully admissible. And the Supreme Court ruled in Salinas versus Texas in 2013 that if you remain silent without formally invoking the Fifth Amendment, your silence itself can be used against you as evidence of guilt. You must explicitly say the words, "I am invoking my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent." Third, recognize that innocent people are actually at greater risk in interrogations. Research shows innocent suspects believe their innocence will protect them. They waive Miranda rights at higher rates. They employ the naive strategy of simply telling the truth. They do not realize that their truth can be twisted, misremembered, or contaminated by information fed to them by interrogators. Researcher Saul Kassan calls this the paradox that innocence puts innocence at risk. The reforms are slowly coming. Illinois, Oregon, and Utah have banned police lying to juveniles during interrogations. 30 states, plus Washington, D.C., now mandate electronic recording of interrogations. One of the nation's largest police training organizations, Wicklander-Zulawski, announced in 2017 it would stop teaching the Reid technique entirely. But until the system changes, the invisible advantage remains. Every interrogation is a conversation, but only one person knows the script. Only one person has read the file. Only one person has watched the surveillance footage, analyzed the phone records, and mapped the movements. And it is not you. Now you know how they do it. The question is, have they already done it to you? If this changed how you see conversations, subscribe. Every interrogation follows a playbook. I will decode them all.